Seeing that it's 6 o'clock, we'll call the March 7th, 2016 Franklin City Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Barnett.
Present.
Mr. Austin.
Here.
Mr. Abbott.
Here.
Mr. Alt. Mr. Eggers.
Here.
Mr. Fox.
Here.
And Mr. Martin.
Here.
Sir, you have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Invocation of pledge, if you would, please, Mr. Works.
Let's bow our heads. Lord, be with each of our city employees as they do our job, protect and run our city. Be with our first responders to do the work. Be with our military that's here and around the world protecting our freedoms. Allow the council to do our business of the city with good decisions in the right direction for Franklin. Let all the March Madness teams win. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The presentations, I'll get to public comment in here in just a couple of moments, but tonight we are honored to have a new police officer being welcomed to our department this evening, and so I'd like to perform the swearing in ceremony at this time. So, Mr. Martin, if you would please, and any of your family that you'd like to come up here with you. Please raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Cody Martin,
A member of the Franklin, Indiana Police Department,
a member of the Franklin, Indiana Police Department,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
all of my official duties.
all of my official duties.
Congratulations. Yeah, you're all welcome to leave. We'll give you a couple minutes. Appreciate you being here tonight. Appreciate your willingness to allow them to serve us, so thank you. Do we have any other announcements, presentations, public comments? If you would please come up to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just wanted to come by and say hello and introduce myself. My name is Matt Prine. I am running for House District 47, which is a seat that has been occupied by one of Johnson County's own John Price for 4 years. Of course, a former council member and county commissioner that served this community in law enforcement and other capacities. I hope to serve in a capacity that fills some of his shoes. Obviously, those are big shoes, and it'll take me a few years to get there, but I wanted to come and introduce myself and talk just briefly about why I'm running for office and hope to serve the community of Franklin and the communities that are inside of District 47. I currently work for Indiana American Water, but prior to that I worked for a couple of members of Congress that served this area, both Congressman Steve Booyer and Congressman Burton years ago, and certainly had a passion. I grew up in Whiteland, graduated in 1998, and grew up in this area and wanted to move my family back here, and I've done that. Just a few years ago, we built a house just south of town, and are proud residents of Johnson County yet again. Have 2 young kids, a 9-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son, and they both attend here at Webb Elementary, and we are very proud of the community of Franklin and Johnson County both to call home, and certainly want to see it grow and continue to prosper. Since moving down here, I joined the Amity Volunteer Fire Department. I feel passionate about serving the public, and one of your own, Chief James, was my mentor and teacher through Fire 1 and 2, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but I certainly appreciate his teaching during that time. But look forward to running. Look forward to talking with each of you about the issues that are concerned to the city of Franklin and then serving the people that you also serve, and obviously addressing those at a state level. I've already heard from the presentation of the board works, a number of issues they've dealt with on the federal and state level that are concerned to this community and hope to be a voice and an advocate. Certainly that's one thing I think is a real tool in my belt, is being able to listen to those interests and being able to advocate those at the levels of government that certainly I choose, or trying to serve and represent this community. So with that, I just wanted to come by and say hi. I look forward to talking with you. I've given hopefully each of you my card prior to the meeting, but certainly any members of the community that would like to reach out to me, you can find me obviously on the modern Facebook and websites, but certainly my phone number, cell phone, and email are all available for conversation. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Any other public comments, announcements, presentations? No? Hearing none, we'll go to consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda minutes for February 1st.
Second.
Motion by Barnett, second by Eggers. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Old business.
Make a motion to read all under old business by title only.
Second.
Motion by Barnett, second by Fox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. First item, all of these are set for public hearing and adoption if you so choose. First one is Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 1601, budgetary ordinance authorizing an additional appropriation for non-tax supported funds. This is, excuse me, annual housekeeping, if you will. As I mentioned last time, when we present the budget to you all in September, October timeframe, we don't know what those balances are going to be for those non-tax supported funds. And so we usually just use whatever is available or remaining on the June 30th date. But once we then have an idea after the first of the year, of course, we come back to you to appropriate whatever those dollars are remaining. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to spend them, but they are available for specific projects. Most of them are donations, park donations, police fire donations, those kind of things. Does anyone have any questions? Again, these are non-tax supported. These are all monies that are provided from outside sources. Anyone from the public have any comments, questions? Riveting topic. Hearing none, we'll close the public comment.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 16-01.
Second.
Motion by Barnett, second by Eggers. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next one is Common Council Legislative Ordinance number 1602. This is authorizing an additional appropriation for rainy day capital. Again, this is from where we had it, I guess, a month ago now. These are the dollars that were remaining from the unexpended appropriations for 2015. I can tell you that you'll hear a little bit more in the next presentation under new business from Mr. Horner, but some of these dollars will be monies to be used for park and rec, really deferred maintenance, a lot of things that should have been taken care of in the last several years and are just now kind of coming to light, and vehicles, equipment will be purchased out of this rainy day. Not the entire amount by any means, but a good portion of what Chip is going to be requesting here very soon will be all the capital expenditures will be paid for out of this rainy day. And this is, a lot of this, and Chip will allude to it, I'm sure. He was put on a nice show, his presentation. All of these projects that Chip will mention were kind of a culmination of his work and a lot of work put into it by the park board and approved. These projects were approved by the park board before the item was all done. So with that, is there any comments from the public? Hearing none, close the public comment section. Entertain any questions, comments, or motions from the council.
I would make a motion to approve ordinance number 16-02.
Second.
Motion by Barnett, second by Fox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Next are all new business, which are for introduction only.
I would
The
make a
ordinance is
motion to read all of the new business by title only.
Second.
Motion by Barnett, second by Austin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. First item, again, is for introduction, Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 1603, an additional appropriation ordinance for Park and Rec, capital, and rainy day services.
So it's showtime, right?
Good evening.
You knew there'd be a presentation.
Can't ask you this many questions, I'm not tell you why.
That's
So-
correct.
That is true.
That is correct.
Go ahead and flip to the next one. So, let me tell you how we got here. For the past year or so, the Parks Board and the Parks Department staff have been working on trying to identify everything we could humanly possibly look at to figure out where we were maintenance-wise in the park system, whether it be buildings, whether it be grounds, whether it be equipment, the whole 9 yards. So that culminated in a July park board meeting that we very rarely do, but we went out to every facility that we own. We spent 8 hours and we just traveled to every facility that we own. We looked at every detail down from tile on the floor at the Active Adult Center all the way to millions of dollars worth of pool equipment that we have. So that's kind of where we were today. The next thing we did was we had to create a multi-year plan because I'm going to show you what the number is. One thing that I am, after 21 years of doing this, is realistic. And the number that I'm going to show you that we have identified in deferred maintenance and equipment replacement is not feasible to do in a year. It's not feasible to do in 2 years. It's probably not feasible to do in 5 years, but it is what it is. But the identified backlog maintenance was $1.6 million. That had to do with everything. Let me give you an example. The Beeson Hall was built in 2000. This is 2016 now, so the original carpet is still in Beeson Hall. It's 16 years old and it's starting to look worn. We looked at all those kind of details. Because it's hard to believe that the recreation center is 17 years old now. It's not, like it was built 5 years ago. And to keep things looking the same or better, we have to invest the money into that to keep those things looking nice. So what you're going to find that I'm going to talk about is what we found to be the most pressing issues that we needed to take care of as quickly as we could. My favorite slide is how in the heck did we even get here? And this is such great information that you hardly ever see. I do every day, you hardly ever see it though. Let me give you some examples. We own $35,000 worth of china and silverware in the Parks Department. Did you know that? It constantly gets broken all the time because we own the equipment in Beeson Hall. When there used to be one caterer in Beeson Hall, and then we switched to 5, which means we had to buy china equipment, the china and silverware and that kind of stuff. Because one caterer used to own that, and we switched to 5. 5 people aren't carrying china in back and forth, so the Parks Department bought china and silverware. We have 902 chairs in the park system. Those break all the time. We own a $12,000 commercial dishwasher. We own 7 commercial freezers and refrigerators. All that stuff has to be maintained. Just really cool information. We own 34 computers. You know how many I budget to replace every year? 0. Because we just can never get that in there. Okay? So, obviously 34 computers don't last forever. We own 17 big screen TVs. They're out throughout the park system. Those things don't last forever. We own 41 HVAC units that all have to be maintained. The majority of what we spend our $300 budget on every year, one of our largest expenses, is about $80,000 a year just in HVAC maintenance alone. Is what we spend. Just some other cool stuff. We own 38 cardio pieces of equipment and 18 weight pieces of equipment in the park system. All that stuff has to be maintained. Not only does it have to be maintained, but it only lasts for so long. The last treadmill that we replaced, which was last year at this time, had over 500,000 miles on a treadmill. So we'll use them till they die, don't get me wrong. But they have to be replaced sometimes. We had $1 million worth of pool equipment, full mechanical equipment. When I say mechanical equipment, when we turn the thing on, it runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 100 days. Things break when that happens. The other large one I wanted to show you is, don't know if you know this or not, but we own a $275,000 water slide that I'm going to ask you for $30,000 tonight to keep it maintained. Because we used to own a water slide that we didn't maintain, and it didn't last as long. So if we keep the maintenance up like we should be, then maybe this thing will last longer than normal. Okay? Really cool statistics though, and believe it or not, we know all that stuff because I had an intern from Franklin College spend one summer doing nothing but counting stuff. I know how many light fixtures we have in the park system because they went and counted. Okay? Nobody probably out here could see that, but hopefully you guys have this in writing. But this is the $500,000 plan. It's got everything from tree removal and replacement in parks that I'll show you about, all the way down to some play structure and water slide improvement, not improvement, but maintenance we need to do. 2 examples. These are 2 different trees in Green Lawn Cemetery. Okay? There are 17 just like those that are dead out there. Okay? The problem is, our city arborist program cannot take down a tree that large because the bucket doesn't go up that high. So I have to get an outside contractor to do that stuff. The problem is, I could probably get 1 done with the current cemetery budget, not the other 16. A lot of them are along South, neither one of these are along South Street. And if you're at South Street that runs parallel to the new urban forest, almost all those trees are dead. Okay? And they're not just almost dead, they're completely rotten inside. They're going to fall down eventually. Thanks. You can't see these pictures, and I get that, but I'm putting them up there so you know what I'm talking about. There are 51 dead trees in our park system. Not that need to be trimmed, not that need to have a dead limb trimmed out of them. There are 51 that are completely dead. So I'm not even addressing what needs to be trimmed yet. I'm just trying to get the dead ones that are completely dead out. Same thing. This gives you the location of where they are. We actually operate 2 cemeteries in this city, if you didn't know that. Green Lawn Cemetery is the one you know about. The one you don't know about is at Providence Park. That sits on a hill. Every tree around this cemetery, which I was with the mayor out there last summer, some of those headstones are from the 1800s. All the trees around this entire cemetery are dead. Not dying, they're completely dead. Next.
You have log south.
Yeah.
You have wood south.
It's funny, I had that discussion with Mr. Works actually, that that might be a possibility that we can find somebody that will come in here and take some of the stuff out. But we did have that discussion. What you're seeing next is, you're only going to see one picture of this because there are several that I could have taken, but I just didn't. This is the existing Greenway Trail, okay? Not what we're getting ready to build, not what we built in the last year or 2. This is the very first piece that was built back in 1995 that runs through Providence Park. What you see here is where a tree root has come through the trail, and what I couldn't get effective in a picture was it's up about this high. So it's a speed bump on the trail is what it is, basically what it is. You don't know when you're on a bike and you're barreling down a hill, you will fall off your bike on that because that's how high it is. It's a speed bump. There are numerous spots in our existing trail system that are like that. You can go through Morgan Park and hit 4, 5, 6 of them at a time. Okay? Part of this money that's in here is to fix those issues from what we have that are existing. Okay? Another great one. I don't know how many people visit Smith Park a lot from on Johnson Avenue. We own a basketball court that I can't believe we let people play on. This is not only the cracking that you see, but the graying part that you see is actually a huge dip in it. Okay, so if you're going up, this is right under, one of them is right underneath the basketball goal you'll see on the left. You're going up for it, you're gonna dip into a dip when you come down. So you're gonna break your ankle. That's what we have out there existing. That's part of the in here too. Next. One of my favorites is we have a beautiful aquatic center. That this is hidden. You don't get to see this because I'm not going to let you see it. But what you're looking at is a room in the city mechanical, the pool mechanical room that stores hydrochloric acid in it. Most people don't know about swimming pools. I'm constantly pumping hydrochloric acid in a swimming pool, and nobody understands that, but we do it little shots at a time. That's what controls the pH balance of the swimming pool. Every so often, it will just completely eat this room up from the fumes in there. So that's what we have. To replace it's not just that door, there's actually 4 doors complete total. To replace those is $10,000 because I want to replace them with not metal doors, I want to replace them with chemical resistant doors. Like we have on the new mechanical room that we just built for the zero depth pool. A fiberglass door will last. This one, I could put a door just like this in today, and by August it will look just like that again.
If I had pop shut you down because of that?
But you see what we're talking about is these kind of things. Next. This is one of my favorite pictures that's ever been taken. It's an aerial shot of the aquatic center. I'm going to show you this picture for effect. Is that we own 10 huge umbrellas out there. Okay? We owned 4 of them prior to this because we took from the existing pool and we added 6 more to this one. The point is each one of those are about $3,000 just for the fabric on top of it, not including what I call the guts of it. They all have to be replaced about every 4 years because they are UV resistant, but they're not 5-year UV resistant. And then they'll eventually get holes in them because they can sustain up to about 65 miles an hour wind and that kind of stuff, but eventually they're just going to wear out. We have to replace those every so often. I think that's the thing. When we decided to put that stuff in, we also decided that we had to maintain it both ways. There's your $275,000 water slide. One of the things on the list is $30,000 to have it recoated. And the interior has to be recoated about once every 5 years to keep its life and to keep it going before it actually will break down the seams of it.
23 years old now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because the money we're asking today won't be done prior to this year, it'll be done in the fall for the next year. And then the blue that you see is actually the water because the bottom is not blue, it's white. But we haven't painted the pool in 8 years. $5,000 of that is just for the money to buy the paint to paint the bottom again. Okay? Next. We also have all kinds of, talking about federal stuff, I have all kinds of federal requirements about aquatic center. One is it has to be ADA accessible. We currently have both of these things that you see. The left-hand side, I need to replace because it's original from the early 80s when it was built. And it's wore out. The right one is an automatic lift that's required by the federal government now at any swimming pool. We own one that died last year. It was a portable one, and technically they have to be stationary. They changed that law after we bought the portable one. So this is what a stationary is. The left side is about $5,000. The right side is about $9,000. But you both are required. You have to have 2 ways to get into a swimming pool nowadays, unless it's zero depth. Next. We all know, I'm sure everybody's been over to what we call the active adult center. We do not call it the senior center. The attendance dips when I call it the senior center. When I call it the active adult center, the attendance goes through the roof. That's all semantics. This is the building. I'm not originally from Franklin. I don't know the originals, but Steve, did you go to school here? I did. I thought you told me you did once. This is the same building. It's the same brick. I suspect by looking at the gutters, it's the same gutters. As you can see, I don't know if you can see the detail in that picture or not, that gutter is not connected to the top. It's a pipe that's missing the top connection, that's missing the bottom connection. That's what we're working with over there. What you see browning on that building is not the brick a different color, it's because it's take the moisture in because it's bringing down the water, the wall of it. The other side is the roof just absolutely has to be replaced. The gutters have to be replaced, the roof has to be, the shingles have to be replaced. Next slide. This is the painting that needs to be done over there. It's just flaking off the building like crazy. You can't see it very good on here, but the windows have missing seals this much in them. Even what I call the newer side of the building, which I don't think was there when you were there, the gutters on there are just completely destroyed. And the shingles need to be replaced on that side too. Next. It's also, the building's also has huge cracks in it. I don't know if you can see it in the audience, but you guys can see it probably better. It needs to be tuck pointed. Next. And then the last one I have to address, I think the mayor just addressed, is the fleet. We currently own 30 pieces of equipment in the park system, and we own 14 in the cemetery. So we own 44 pieces of equipment, whether that be a mower, a truck, a utility vehicle, a van, a bobcat, anything. We own 44 of those. Since I have been with the department since 2008, we replaced 14 of 44. That can't be sustained forever. We have vehicles with 100,000 miles on them that were bought in 1999 and they're still running. What you see on the left was a picture that I had just recently received from Kai, our fleet maintenance director, from a van that we currently drive. He says, I'll fix it if you want me to, but to fix it's going to be about 4 times more than the van's worth. That's what we're driving around, is that kind of stuff. The van I'm talking about was actually a hand-me-down from the police department that they got rid of years ago. So it's pretty rare that we go out and buy hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of new equipment, but sometimes we're so far behind we're going to have to do something to get back in closer to where we need to be. That's the highlights. I didn't go through every, I will if you want me to. I can take another 30 minutes if you want me to go at every detail that you guys have the list of what they are. We've discussed it at park board level for a year, exactly what we wanted on this list, and this is what we come up with. Next one, Angie. Any discussion? How made you feel good while we talk about it?
Hey, Chip, a question, I guess. I understand maybe the need to do an immediate to get you a little farther along, a little quicker.
Sure.
But I guess, and maybe this is a question for everybody. I mean, what do you have built into an annual budget for routine maintenance? Is it, it's obviously not enough. I mean, do we need to be looking at a different budget for you annually?
It's a good question. I will give the mayor some credit. He actually, we tried to address that in this year's budget. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was $68,000 more than it was the previous year in our 300 account. A lot of that stuff you're seeing is 400 stuff that we have, our budget's 0, and it has been for 8 years. But as far as like routine, what I call routine HVAC maintenance and that kind of stuff, the mayor did allow us to up our $68,000 this year.
Well, but I mean, it's somewhat obvious that we've not had enough in there to cover maintenance, because now we're at a point where we've got to spend a lot of money, and if we need to do that, I guess we need to do that, but going forward, it seems like we'd be better off addressing that maybe at each budgetary.
I agree.
So this year for the 2016 budget, we increased the 300 series, which is where a lot of these maintenance issues would come from, 13.3%, so 468,000. This is 300 series and some change. But we've always had the 400 series, which is all the capital, the vehicles and everything, is 0.
Chip, do you have these phased out into kind of priority, stuff you want to get done quickly, stuff that needs to be done immediately?
Yes. I didn't give you the whole 1.6 million.
I see that.
I didn't want to shoot you. I'm already shocking you enough, I have no doubt. Sure don't want to give you the whole bunch.
Well, I mean, I'm a huge proponent of park systems. I think they're necessary, and I think it's awesome we can give something back to the citizens other than just public safety. I mean, tax dollars need to go back to give people that are actually obeying the law and doing things that they should be doing. And I think parks are a great way to do that. They have to be safe. They just have to be. Those trees, somebody's running through the cemetery and one comes down, a lawsuit's a lot more expensive than what you're asking for.
Yeah, and Councilman Fox just reminded me of something. Always remember that this is extra stuff above and beyond what we had already planned to do this year.
Sure.
The 13% increase, this is only, trust me, this is a fraction of what we normally do in a year. But we're gonna do that with our normal budget.
Do you anticipate having enough time to get a lot of these projects done in the foreseeable future? And resources, meaning manpower?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff is, will be contracted out to other people.
Okay.
So I think to clarify Chip's request is, and how it's set up is Park and Rec has their own fund, they're their own taxing unit, separate from the general fund. So his request would be $250,000 from his cash reserves, essentially. The original request was gonna be for $250,000 new monies from the rainy day. Trim that back to $72,000, based on what you guys just approved 5 to 10 minutes ago with the money that we had saved from last year. So the actual overall request would be $322,000, $250 of that coming from the Park and Rec Fund, $72,000 coming from rainy day. And the reason we can't slide that into capital is because they're not capital expenditures. A lot of them are 300 series.
So the catch-up will always be through those funds? I mean, because there's no way for us to get to that point where we can get ahead of the game?
Yeah, so I think going forward, I think we start chipping away at it. An example would be the police department. When we took over, buying 1 or 2 new police cars a year, which is not going to work with 46, at that time 40 officers, 46 officers' offices, that's not going to work. And so we started gradually increasing that number to where we now have a vehicle replacement matrix at the police department for 7 new vehicles every year, and it's worked into the budget. And so I think we do a similar thing with the parks. Obviously, we're still constricted by property tax caps. Mr. Prime, if you're still here listening, I know it's in the Indiana Constitution now, but property tax caps have been very restrictive. And so we do the best we can in keeping in mind that if we increase Park and Rec, then we've got to take from somewhere else, whether it's general fund or NVH, which is local road and street, and local motor vehicle highways doesn't even collect property taxes. So if we're giving to Parks and Rec, we're pulling away from the general fund somewhere. But I'm weird, but I like Excel spreadsheets, and budget season is like Christmas Eve for me, so I enjoy that challenge.
Chip, on the fleet rotation, how does the $178,000 bring you up to where you need to be?
Well, specifically, you'll see what I mean, it's gonna get us 3 new mowers. And when I say new, we're gonna trade in the existing mowers that we have. We'll get 3 new ones, 2 new trucks. I didn't address that, I should have. 2 new vans, because what I want to do is trade in the 2 existing vans that are similar to what we'll be replacing, and then replace a tool cat that we got. And if you've ever been to an event downtown, you'll know what the tool cat is that I'm talking about. It's the thing that has the forks on it that they move picnic tables with all the time. That thing is like 15 years old now. But it has all kinds of attachments, but that is the one that most people see. So does I think it solves the issue? No. But I think it does. I mean, it puts a good bid in it.
Chip, have you looked into some kind of a perpetual lease on stuff like that?
I've had a discussion actually with the street commissioner. He's really good at that. So that is an option we're going to look into too. Always understand that when you appropriate money, it doesn't mean we're going to spend it all. except when it comes to me, I usually do, but for example, if I could get with Brett, we can come up with a great lease program for equipment, then it may not cost $178,000.
Yeah, when I worked for the county park, so that we had the same piece of equipment,
And we do that with some stuff. We currently lease a tractor that has like a couple of attachments to it that we pay $5,500 a year for, I think, or something.
right?
The only warning that I have with the lease program is you gotta remember that
No, I
you
understand,
can't not give me the money 1 year, because then all the equipment goes back.
I understand.
Chip, you and I have talked about this several times. You've been to several of the park board meetings. I'm just kind of curious, why did you settle on the $250,000 from the park general fund? I thought at one time when you all started talking about this, you was at $500,000, and you felt pretty comfortable with being able to do that.
You have a municipal finance expert, 2 people down from you, that, if I'm not mistaken, we need to keep like 6-month reserve in that fund anyway. And $250,000 will come close to that 6-month reserve.
Okay.
So we squeezed every penny I could and still keep the 6-month reserve.
That answers the question. Because I know at one time you felt pretty comfortable that we didn't get to that 500.
Part of the issue is that it was the weather last year for the pool was horrendous,
Okay.
and we didn't make as much revenue as we normally would.
Mayor, we've talked about the tree situation for a long time now, and it seems that even though most of the trees that we see are in the park system, there are multiple trees that are not in the park system that also are dead. So, what are your thoughts about starting to attack the tree situation?
That are not in the parks? That
Yes.
are maybe Mr. Jones's responsibility or problem back there?
Well, I mean, I don't think, he can't take them down either, right? He's got to
No.
now as well.
Yeah, so the problem we have is, several years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, we had, and just a few years before that as well, we've had 2 pretty significant droughts. And you never see the full impact of that drought within a year or 2. It's always delayed. It's always a few years later. And so I think we're feeling that now, in addition to what has been widely publicized over the last few years with the emerald ash borer. It seems like it's not just attacking the ash trees anymore. It's kind of infiltrated other things, or at least some sort of species has. And so I think it's our street trees, our park trees are in need of some significant attention. We've planted a ton of trees, probably 6,000 or 7,000 trees over the last few years, whether it's in the urban forest or with the new projects we have going on with Main Street and some of the others, East and West Fourth Street. But a lot of those trees that were planted 50, 60, 80, 100 years ago are now suffering the impacts of those droughts and those pests, insects. Or beavers. Yeah. So I'm open to suggestions as far as funding that. There are some minimal that we could attack with some of our own equipment, but for the most, and I think those have been identified. And our Jim Farr, who's the arborist that works for the city, does a really good job of partnering with some of our utilities that have contracts with other tree removal services, and does really well with giving us services that we probably wouldn't have if he didn't have the connections. And so he does a nice job. I think he'll continue to work through that. He made a lot of headway last year, I know. So I think the immediate right now, obviously, is the park. The parks, we're also going to address the street. We have a lot of tort claims that come through because something happens and a storm rolls through, and we just identify those.
Do we feel like this time next year we can come back and maybe match this? I know we've got aggressive with our street department, getting our streets and alleys redone in the last few years. Could this be kind of treated like that, when we get aggressive like this every year for a few years to get caught up? Or,
Sure.
I mean, will
I
there
don't
be
think
enough?
those orders
like,
going to turn it down.
no, I'm just saying like the park general fund, I mean, that's really the park's money anyway. And we're sitting here, got your hands tied with it. If there's $250,000 that could be available to do the same thing next year with projections of what will be made.
I'll have to know that at the time.
Well, I mean, really, that's already, we're really predetermined on that right now, just based on what you're telling us. I mean, you're telling us we're only going to do a very small Yeah.
I'm just trying to be conservative.
No, I
No,
understand.
but yeah, I mean,
No.
after this, there's still $1 million left in what we've identified.
And I agree with Steve. I mean, I think, a year from now, we need, if we can, we need to be aggressive. I mean, I'd rather see us get back on top of this.
We've been talking about trees for a long time.
Yep.
We need to do something about it, so.
Chip, what about renting a larger bucket truck? We take the trees out.
I didn't hear you ask me again.
What about renting a large enough bucket truck that we can take the trees down ourselves?
He needs to, I don't have anybody trained to do that. I don't know if the arborists do that or not.
I would think the artist would be trying to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we can, I mean, there's still gonna be certain trees that we can't, just from a skilled manpower standpoint, we have, we have an arborist, but, you go out to a 70-foot tree, that's more than one man that's gonna tackle in a safe manner, so. I think we're at 50 feet now is our limitation. We've talked about trying to look at a 60 or 65-foot bucket truck, but you still run into the safety concern of, A, how many guys does it take to safely remove a 70-foot tree? And then same scenario, what are my guys not doing for the street department if they're in the parks for the next 3 months taking down trees? So, it's opportunity cost, however you guys want to weigh that. Not saying we can't, but there's going to be obvious other things that I may be there next year saying we've got behind on these because we've been cutting down trees. So I think there's a plan put together by Jim, and I think it would be wise that we put a bid packet out with 60 trees that we need removed, and Jim has those labeled, classified, what we can, what we can't do, and I think it'd be a good opportunity to partner on that.
What about the wetlands, stand out there? What's the status of it?
You did hear me talk about that before. We had estimated that it would cost $10,000 to get that thing removed, because I had a couple quotes for that. I thought that was crazy. I had our guys go out and they took it out in a day and a half and it didn't cost us anything.
Right. That's my issue with just automatically going, now let's go pay somebody to do something.
Right.
So,
I agree. I mean, it literally took them a day and a half to chop this thing up and put it in the dumpster.
are you planning on putting that back?
Not this, no.
One other thing, speaking of maintenance, I would like to come and get the Canon here in the near future. It needs some TLC.
Yeah.
And we are it is our job to maintain that per the agreement, so.
And you usually take care of that, don't you?
Yeah.
So. And I said this once before, we do try to be creative. I think that we just go out and I want to spend $55,000 to cut tree guys. I'm all about what Richard Word said. I mean, if we can get somebody to come and work with us and let them take the wood, fine, take it. Mr. All won't take credit, but we had a bridge issue down in Providence Park that somebody had hit all the railing with a car and knocked it all off, and he came down and his company put it back for free. So we do try to be creative and do that stuff when we can.
I think taking down a 70-foot tree in a difficult application where you have one arborist that's trained to do it, I personally wouldn't want to see the city doing it. I think a contractor needs to be paid and put bids out to do it and do it properly and safely. If you're taking trees down now at 60-foot level and you're comfortable with it, I think that's probably where you need to be. That's just my opinion. So 70-footer, I think we ought to contract it out.
And I'll give Jim another plug. I mean, and Brett deserves some credit to you. We take that. Please don't think that we don't do things that we are capable of doing. We've taken down at least 9 trees that I can think of in the cemetery this past year that Jim took down. So it's not, I'm addressing the ones that are probably out of the range. Yeah. But we'll definitely trim and do everything we can in-house.
As of the close of just one final note real quick, as far as if anybody has any questions about fund balance for Park and Rec, cash balance, at the end of February, this actually just came out this morning from Sharon in the Treasurer's office. Their fund balance is $1,087,767. So just shy of $1 million is in their fund balance. Unappropriated.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, again, that was introduction, excuse me. Yeah, got a lot of questions and comments, good conversation going, so. The next is also for introduction, which is Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 1604, an additional appropriation ordinance, grants police supplies, Chief Assault.
I hate following shit.
Your number's better.
Yeah,
It is free.
ours is free. We're asking to spend $1,392 that was awarded to us by the Drug Free Johnson County grant.
Think should be.
Can you use any undercover cameras, Chip? That's the
Don't
purpose.
ask him that.
So that is our intent, is to buy recording devices with the noise.
Anyone have any questions? Next, you can take action tonight because this is a resolution, Common Council Resolution number 1602, a resolution setting forth final action in determining an economic revitalization area and confirming resolution 2016-01 of February 1st, 2016. Common Council Resolution number 1603, a resolution granting tax abatement for Pierce Hardy Limited Partnership. Common Council Resolution number 1605, a resolution granting tax abatement for 84 Lumber Company. Thank you.
Krista, can we, I know we have to do it in the proper order.
We do,
Yeah,
so
yeah, right.
at the February meeting, we did the introduction, and this has been advertised, and we'll need to do a public hearing tonight for the confirming resolution, and once that resolution is approved, creating the economic revitalization area, we can act on 1603 and 1605, which would actually grant the tax abatements for those two entities.
So we need to have a public hearing first on 1602 for the ERA, correct?
That's correct.
I'll open it up to public comments. Hearing none, I'll close public comments.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 16 dash.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Barnett and Havin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. 1603.
Just kind of a reminder, I know these were given to you in February. We've skipped a meeting, so a month later, kind of refresh your memory. This is the former Trustway facility that was vacant for a number of years, that is being purchased by the landholder company is Pierce Hardy Limited Partnership. And so that's why we've done two separate resolutions, one for the real property, which the EDC has recommended a 7-year abatement on the $650,000 of improvements that they're putting into this facility. And then 84 Lumber is the actual owner of the personal property that will be installed into this facility. And that's $1,750,000 worth of equipment. And the EDC has recommended a 5-year abatement on that equipment for 84 Lumber. And so that's the reason for the two separate resolutions, one for each real property and one for personal property. And they've agreed to the voluntary economic development fees on both of those as well, 2% on real property and 5% on the personal property.
Public hearing also.
Again, anyone have any comments on the public? No, those public comments?
Make a motion to approve resolution number 16-03.
Second.
Motion by Barnett, second by Austin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Okay, I would also make a motion to approve resolution number 16-05.
Second.
Motion by Barnett, second by Austin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, I'll need your signature on those SD1 forms.
Next is Common Council Resolution 1606, a declaratory resolution designated an economic revitalization area for Fisher Contracting LLC.
So again, this is the first step in a two-step process. This property is in the Hudson Industrial Park. The address is 3031 Hudson Street. And this is for a real property tax abatement. Because this area has not been determined an economic revitalization area, that's the declaratory resolution that we would need to approve tonight, and then we'll come back at your next meeting once the public notice has been ran in the paper, and then we can confirm that with a resolution, and then there'll be another resolution that will actually grant the tax abatement on the real property. So there are 3 resolutions, but only one of them is for you tonight, and that's Resolution 1606, designating this as an economic revitalization area. And just to give you a little background, the Economic Development Commission recommended a 5-year real property tax abatement on this with a 5% economic development fee. And I can give you more details at the next meeting, but that would be what the economic revitalization area would be designated for. Are there any questions on that one?
It was a unanimous vote at the EDC for what you just mentioned.
I would make a motion to approve resolution number 16-06.
Second.
Motion by Barnett, second by Ayers. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Common Council Resolution 1609, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Franklin, Indiana, approving certain matters in connection with the establishment of the economic development area and allocation areas and approval of an economic development plan for said area. I saw Ms. Vicky sit down, Mr. Sheffield sit up, so.
Hi.
You.
Rob Shopstall, representing the Redevelopment Commission. Interrupt me at any time with questions or comments. The Redevelopment Commission has decided that it would like to redevelop the 31 corridor from Jefferson Street north to Knollwood. And the primary purpose of the redevelopment would be to add pedestrian improvements, which might include the acquisition of right-of-way. It could also include surface water drainage, infrastructure, water infrastructure, road infrastructure, sewer infrastructure. Preliminary estimates are that we can spend $10 million to $20 million. We probably spend as much as we want on those projects. In order to do that, the Redevelopment Commission first creates the called the zone, but it's the economic development area. And that economic development area is shown in red right there. Can you go back, go down again? So the purpose of this exercise that we're doing tonight is that you're being asked for your consent and your approval. And the City Council is a required step in this process. The big picture is that we'd like to collect real estate taxes in a couple areas that we'll talk about and be able to spend the money in this red zone. And now you can scroll if you can. There are 2 areas where additional real estate taxes, there's 2 areas where additional real estate taxes will be captured. This first one is the north, it's called the north allocation area. That's Brannigan, I'm sorry, that's Commerce Drive, running east to west. That lower quadrant would include the Meyer improvement, and then across the street to the north is the former Aaron's radio station. So, and then there's the south zone, maybe we can see that also. The south zone is across from the middle school. I'm showing my age. And that would include the new Kroger, and additionally any other development that occurs within those yellow boxes. This is TIF money, tax increment money, which means that we would only be capturing additional real estate taxes that flow through. The current real estate taxes will continue to be captured by the county and distributed to the library and the county and the schools and the city, just as we normally do. It would only be in any increases in those yellow zones we would capture. We've done this before. We have a zone that runs throughout the city called the Amended Integrated Economic Development Area, and it runs from 65 west to, I think it stops at 31. It also runs up North Main Street, being connected to 31. It also runs up the railroad tracks and terminates up around Franklin Power Condos. Most of the work that you've seen that is redevelopment work, it is funded from a tax increment that's collected in a couple allocation areas that exist. Most of that comes from the Franklin Business Park, which is Music Land area, but also out by 65, Mitsubishi, and the Franklin Tech Park. So these would be new allocation areas. The two new yellow boxes would be additional areas where we're capturing real estate money. We would be spending it in that new red zone. The process here is that the Redevelopment Commission passed a declaratory resolution back on December 15th. That's the first of 4 steps. The second step occurred a week or 2 ago when I went to the Planning Commission, and they gave their consent. You are now the third step, and if your consent is given, this will come back to the Redevelopment Commission in April for its fourth and final step. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Yeah. Just like I asked during the planning commission meeting that there's no set projects that you have right now. There's no like, this is what we're going to do first, this is what we're going to do second. Because the adjusted money that's going to be collected right now is more in the neighborhood of about $800,000 a year, correct? It used to be $675, and now we're looking at about $7-something to $8. Is that true? Is that correct?
I think you're in the ballpark.
All right, so, in my concern, my concern, because this is my district up there, where mine is in that part of Franklin is really without amenities. It doesn't have any sidewalks, it doesn't have any green space or parks, with the exception of Renegade, with that subdivision. So, I would like to see, I'm not against stopping this, but I would like to see something in there where, the money that's generated up in my district is gonna somehow go to some of the projects that are gonna start up there, and not everything be going down into District 3. Because that's basically what Kroger is right there. And if it goes to 31, it'll touch District 4, which is Kenny's district. I'd like to see some kind of plan. Just dates or just ideas and start dates and anything like that. And I do understand too, this new district does not in any way touch the east side. So no money's going to be taken out of here and put into the current district that we have.
Second point, it is correct that these are not linked. So money generated in these 2 new yellow zones cannot be spent throughout the city. It can only be spent within the new red zone. But to your first point, the plan as of right now just sets out 7 different categories without detail. And the categories are construction to improve pedestrian traffic, that's number 1. Number 2 is possible acquisition of right-of-way. Number 3, surface water drainage and collection infrastructure. Number 4 is water infrastructure. 6 is road infrastructure, and 7 is sewer infrastructure. Those have not been prioritized, and the precise locations have not been determined. One other point you just mentioned, though, if money is generated in the north, let's say, let me go backwards. If money is generated in the south yellow zone, it could be spent up in Norwood.
I understand that.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, because anything in the red zone, it doesn't matter where the money is.
Correct.
That's my point I'm trying to make, because I didn't want to be a piggy bank for ourselves the way we don't have nothing up north.
I'm in favor of the new TIF, and I'll tell you why. Been around watching TIF, and I know Franklin, where we're at today, if it wasn't for TIF district, we'd still be, and I've said this several times, we'd still be kind of you look downtown, it'd be vacant, and we wouldn't have all the improvements that we have. So I am in favor of TIF. And another thing that I've figured out over the years of watching the TIF, we've got a lot of, and the mayor's been good about this, helping do this, we've got a lot of grant money. And what the TIF generated is, we've had all that money in the TIF, but we also had match money because of the TIF was created. And to do all those bigger projects, like, I would not like you to, because we talked about Norwood a long time in the schools, trying to get trails and all that, for Norwood and kind of get Norwood connected. But before you ever get enough money to do the big project, the big picture, to get the grants, you've got to have match money. And this is a way for us to get started to have match funds to do the big picture, develop it. It's not gonna happen overnight. I mean, $800,000 a year, that's a lot of money. I wish I could get $800,000 a year, but to get these big projects done, that's just a drop in the bucket what it takes to really fix that. What we've seen downtown and what's gonna happen from, out here to the hospital, all the way to the interstate, it's all created by people. So I agree with you, what I said, but I'm pretty adamant about we need to do this, in my view, so that's where I'm at.
Steve, we've had lengthy conversations, and I know we've been, back and forth on certain hotspots that I have.
I agree with you, Steve. I mean, you just see what good has come out of this, and Joe, I mean, I think you have to rely on the fact that as we move forward, that good things will come out of it. And,
Roger.
yeah, so.
Joe, to address it, when we started talking about it, we first were talking just in the project, and we extended it from Jefferson to Northwood to include any and all projects that might come along, and really trying to address the traffic problem of allowing the people on the east side and the west side to connect. And I hope there is a way safely to allow our citizens to get back and forth and connect with the trail to all parts of our community.
No, I agree, because people don't realize that we have almost half our citizens who live less than 31. It's less than 2 percentage points, the population difference between the east side and the west side. People don't realize, when I say that to some folks, they think everyone's on the east side. It's less than 2 points, 2 percentage points.
I think, you guys, this goes back to a safety issue we've talked about on US 31. I think that's kind of where, doesn't this, I mean, talk about the middle school now and safely these students crossing US 31. And Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, we're putting in a new, like a light and a caution rumble strip, a safe passage zone across from the old high school currently. Now, can you guys tell me, how are we going to improve upon that as far as public safety for the kids and the people that walk along US 31? That's what interests me the most, because I think this is where this started a long time ago, and we found a way to pay for it. So I'm thinking public safety first, because we've talked about this for a long time.
And what you just said there, Kenny, I know school officials have stood behind this, creating a TIF just because they could not afford to pay for something like that. They see a way for the city to be able to do that.
Sure.
If I could add, a lot of this, the planning for this, and I understand your concern as far as what are the exact projects. We didn't want to spend a lot of time and money creating a very detailed list of exact projects and exact dollar amounts unless the TIF district is approved. And we know, based on the comprehensive plan that we updated in 2013, that we started kind of with the downtown, and then we went out to 65, and we approved the bond last year for the 65 improvements, that corridor. This was kind of 31, like step number 3 that we're at. We have the Safe Routes to School plan. We have a lot of plans that, our plans don't sit on shelves. I mean, every plan that we did, the Gateways and Greenways plan in 2009, that's what's gonna get built this year. So there are a lot of plans that support this document, and there will be further, prioritizing, but there'll be steering committees and public meetings before money is spent along the 31 corridor. We'll want input on those types of projects as well. So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing of, if you don't have the funds set aside, you can't plan for the projects, and you don't want to get people's hopes up if the TIF district isn't approved. So we have to get that done first, and then it's only gonna generate so much money a year. It's gonna be a few years until there's enough generated to do a project of significant impact, so.
Joe, I represented the people in North End of Franklin. Joe's absolutely correct in the comments that he's making. So I'll be in full support of seeing something up north that's take care of our northern friends and families up there that don't really have anything right now. So I'll be looking for something like that.
I'd like to make a motion to accept Resolution 2016-09.
Second.
Motion by Worth, second by Barnett. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you. Next, three are for introduction. Common Council Ordinance Number 1602, an ordinance authorizing the clerk treasurer of the city of Franklin, Indiana to deposit, invest, and reinvest funds in local financial institutions designated as depositories. This room is here, but I think this is again, another housekeeping item that comes before this council the first part of every year. Anyone have any questions?
Stephanie, you have anything to add?
No, it is just housekeeping.
Every year, the clerk treasurer, not just Franklin, it's all over the state, are required to pass this ordinance, which gives the legal authority to the clerk to manage our funds with investments and deposits. So it'll be back in front of you in a couple weeks for approval. Next is Common Council Ordinance 1603, an ordinance of the city of Franklin determining the materiality and threshold for reporting irregular variances, losses, shortages, and thefts. Ms. Gray.
Thank you.
Materiality.
Materiality, that is it.
There's a U in there.
This is something that you have not ever had before, because the state legislature, quite frankly, in response to certain events that had occurred in the news, certainly not in our community, had issues where there was a new focus on accounting of taxpayer funds through the various offices, whether it be in police departments or fire departments, clerk treasurer's office, etc. So effective January of 2016, the State Board of Accounts requires, as the law requires, that the clerk treasurer's office is responsible for reporting to the State Board of Accounts any material differences in the deposits that they are receiving. What the legislature did not do was determine what is material. And so we get a lot of accounts that come into the clerk's treasurer's office. Part of our internal controls is that it's monitored and it's checked every day to see how much money we should have and how much money we did receive. Because the legislature did not define materiality, it is left to your local government agencies, i.e. the councils, to determine what is material. Ironically, for us, and generally where this comes in is we have people who are running concession stand park. They collect the monies at the end of the day, they send it over to the clerk treasurer's office, the clerk treasurer's office counts the receipts, counts the money, and more often than not, if we have any difference in what we're supposed to have, we usually don't, but if we do, we have more money than we're supposed to have. We have 25 cents more, and I think I included for you a review last year's differences. It's rare that we have less. Sometimes we had $10 under or whatever. More times we have more. As of January 2016, because we don't define what is material, Stephanie or Sharon has been reporting to the State Board of Accounts on the rare occasion when we have too much money. We have $5 more than we're supposed to. This ordinance is intended, and it'll be ready for action at your next meeting, to define what is material that requires the staff to then contact the State Board of Accounts. I don't know what they do with it when they get that information, but contact them. I looked at various other entities. Some of them were doing $1,000. Some of them were doing $500. Some of them didn't know there was another law in place, and I suggested maybe they ought to get one in place. I looked at our material variances. I chose 500, just to have something before you, because we've never gotten anywhere close to that, but certainly that's your decision at next time. So that's what this ordinance is all about. If I might segue into the second ordinance that the mayor will introduce, because they do go hand in hand. The second ordinance is an internal control ordinance. The State Board of Accounts and legislature, again, has been required, the clerk treasurer, to report to the State Board of Accounts and certify by June of 2016 that we have, as a city, have adopted internal control procedures. In other words, anybody who is in charge of taking our money and accounting for our money has to know that there are these procedures in place, and they have to certify that they know what those internal procedures are. So we will be having a meeting with all the department heads and intakes money, whether it be monies coming in for permits, whether it be Chip with his concession stand, or having internal control policies, so that if there are any variances in what we're taking in, and if there's a reason that we need to change our policies, we can address that at the time of the internal controls. The reason that it's important for us to have an ordinance is you, as elected officials, have now got a mandatory duty imposed upon you, that if you become aware or have any reasonable suspicion that there has been a misappropriation of money, you are required to notify the State Board of Accounts in writing, and you are also required to notify the prosecuting attorney in writing, or you could be subject to some penalties yourself. So I felt it important that we have that discussion so that we know that awareness, and that is built into our ordinance, that you now know that, and you will faithfully discharge your duties in that regard. These are new ordinances. I don't anticipate any problems.
Counselor,
Yes, sir.
does the state define materiality as something that's tangible?
They do not. That is left to us to define what is material. But in the legislation itself, sir, they do allow us to define what is material. Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. So our direction, or my direction at this point, since they have not defined it, is if we find we're off $1, we call them, and they want to know why we're calling them. It's because you've never defined material for us. And that's why the ordinance, but they do allow us.
So they're essentially just giving us the ability to just arbitrarily pick a number.
Yes, sir. My guess is they won't care until they disagree with us.
Is that on a plate now too? We have to define material?
That is what the ordinance before you does define material.
I see.
And anything that is variance and greater of $500 would then require us to then report to the State Board of Accounts. We've not, the chart you have in front of you are the intakes from last year, and most of the time it's, as I said, we're up $1, we're up $2.50.
This was noted on our most recent audit, set through the exit interview a few weeks ago with the current and the past clerk treasurer. Mr. Barnett was in the room, and received, this was really the only note from the past year, was that this needed to occur. And so this was the auditors from the State Board of Accounts, and they even referenced that there is no definition of materiality, and that you can determine that.
So time could be material.
It could, yeah.
The memo that has been circulated by the State Board of Accounts is what is material to one city may not be material to another. A variance of $1,000 in Indianapolis might, and this is applicable to any political subdivision. So a fire district that has a budget of $20,000 is also applicable to them. So a variance for them of $500 might be significantly different than it would be to the city of Indianapolis. So they leave it to each political subdivision to define what they believe to be material.
And we've only determined a monetary.
It's a materiality threshold.
Right.
Correct.
So the next is Common Council 1604, an ordinance of the City of Franklin adopting uniform internal control standards for Indiana political subdivisions. I know we've discussed this, I'm just throwing it out there so we know it's officially been introduced.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments in regards to either one? Again, I'll be back in front of you in a couple of weeks for public input and for your approval of such changes. Unfortunately, we don't have a choice. The next item is economic development fees.
Each year when a tax abatement is approved, companies are asked to agree to an economic development fee. So depending on the percentage that they don't pay, there's a percentage that's collected for this, that's set aside. And as those are paid, when taxes are collected, they're collected through the auditor's office on their regular tax bill. Sometimes we get one amount for the whole year if they all pay them up front, and sometimes we get two amounts. Sometimes taxes are being contested or through the auditor, the assessor's office, and so until they have their assessed value situated, they don't pay. It's a long story, and it continues to be a long story, but to make a very long story short, these fees are collected. They were collected the first half of last year, and then there was an additional amount that was collected the second half of 2015. So there was $3,640.56 that was available, that I was notified by the auditor's office for disbursement. And there are only certain agencies that are eligible for these economic development fees. The mission is economic development. And so proposals were taken at the beginning of the year. The amount was much greater, and those fees were divided up. So this amount was small enough that we did not request proposals from all of those organizations. The recommendation earlier in the year was to divide the amount equally among the organizations that were eligible, and that is the recommendation again. So those organizations are Franklin Heritage, Discover Downtown Franklin, Franklin Education Connection, the Franklin Development Corporation, Franklin Chamber of Commerce, and the Johnson County Development Corporation. So if each of those entities got the same amount, it would be $606.76. And so the Economic Development Commission has reviewed this. That is their recommendation to you, is that you approve these fees to be distributed equally. And then I will notify the auditor's office to cut those checks directly to those nonprofit organizations. We'll be doing this again with the May disbursement, but we've actually standardized our process and come up with a grant application form and points and criteria to help the EDC members evaluate those proposals this year. So we'll do that again this year, and you'll have the final say on those recommendations as well. But with this small of an amount, we didn't feel like it was worth everyone's time to go through that process again.
I would make a motion to approve economic development fees distribution as presented.
Second.
Motion by Barnett, second by Austin. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just as a heads up, we have EDC in the morning. We have our first of 48 compliance reports. We have 12 tomorrow morning, so just a warning, those are gonna all come to you at your next meeting, and so for the next several meetings, you'll be seeing a lot of me, so just a heads up.
Steve could assign.
Thanks.
No other business, any council comments?
Yes, we do have an RDC meeting March 15th at 8 a.m. here.
Anyone else?
Just a heads up for your office, you might be getting some phone calls on, and I'm taking the Canon next week or so. I'll be gone for a week. And if there are any big moves around town, I might fire.
Is that a Franklin College touchdown morning?
So I'll know that's cool.
Oh, I love it.
Chief, you heard that? Mr. Warner, also, if you wouldn't mind letting Mr. Bundy and the folks know at the cemetery that it is not someone stealing a cannon. Mr. Warner?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Greg Moore, a resident of Franklin, Needham Township. It's belated, but I wanted to extend my thanks to you For 10 years, I've been involved with the Kuji Japan Sister City Exchange, and it's never really been an exchange for 10 years they've come here, but we were kind enough back in October, and again, apologies for being late on this, but we were able to send 10 kids in the middle school and the high school over to Kuji for a week. And they really had a life-changing experience, and you were able to sponsor one of those students, an 8th grader we sent over. And because of that, I think we now have a true exchange. It was a grant from the Rotary Foundation as well as corporate grants in the city of Franklin. I hope we can do it again. Funding is still up in the air to be secured for future exchanges, but it would be inappropriate if I didn't offer my thanks to you individually here. So the relationship is strong, and I hope we can do it again, and I can report back on another successful exchange. So thank you all very much indeed.
Absolutely. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Let's make that motion to adjourn.
Second.
Von Barnett, Mayor, all in favor?